Talitha, did you pick up on that?
Her dogs, Buddy and Topsy, they got out of surgery. She'd like prayer for them.
Okay. They're not still in the hospital, though, are they? Oh, that they'd recover and do good? All right, pray for Sophia's dogs. They continue to get better. All right. Yeah.
Thank you that the Atkins came here safely.
Amen.
Thank you that the Atkins
They came in early, is that what you said?
Safely.
Oh, safely. Oh. Yeah, good, Eric. You have a good trip, you guys? I was wondering, did you guys have a funeral while you were away, or just your wife and your daughter were looking pretty solemn tonight? Just tired, I guess. You wore out? Tired of traveling? Yeah. All right, we're glad to have you guys back. Yes, JC.
I pray that my uncle that he's getting out in like a year or so, that he will find Jesus when he comes out.
All right, your uncle?
My brother Nate.
All right, let's pray for Ray's brother, JC's uncle, that he'd find Jesus Christ. That's what we all need. Jerry or Luke, one of you guys. Luke, he deferred to you.
Cipriano asked us to continue to pray for his father and his foot problem, and then his mother's upcoming procedure and her swollen foot, and for his grandmother and brother and sisters, and for his friends Justina Grace and Nancy and Grace Michael, and her mother Mary and her heart problem, and for his nieces and nephews Roy Pollock, Adrian Estes, and Bill Means.
All right, let's do pray for Cipriano's requests and his many family requests and friends and his own health, and also for his friends, for Roy and Adrian also. So let's do pray for those. Yes, Jerry.
I just want to thank God for Jay's calendar, heading up this camp building project. I mean, the thing would be kaput without Jay's calendar.
Yeah. All right. Okay. And speaking of camp, there's still opportunity. It's not like it's done. So if you'd like to help out this over the next couple of days, there'll be work going on up there between 8 o'clock tomorrow morning and about 4 o'clock Saturday afternoon. So feel free to show up. Just bring food and whatever else you want. So plenty to do. So Ray, can I count on you? Or? Huh? We went through this last week a little bit, I think. Yeah. So there's still opportunity. Well, tomorrow and Saturday.
Tomorrow and Saturday.
Yeah.
Maybe Saturday.
Well, that'd be great. You know where it is?
Yeah.
I could give you an address, but I don't know one. Yeah. You could type it into your phone. Well, anybody that would like to come up, it'd be welcome.
On the website for the address.
Is there something on there? Yeah. It's pinned, huh? You know. All right, good. Ken.
Just on Google Maps, and just type in Jess Valley Bible Camp.
Oh, is that right? There you go. Fly right to it. All right, Daniel.
A couple things. We received a blessing today that we're thankful for the church family for, and then also we'll be traveling to Elko tomorrow. So we'll be safety. We'll be meeting with your brother Sunday.
Uncle Bob's, I heard.
That's right.
Yeah. Uncle Bob's. And you're gonna have marshmallows, and you're gonna have all kinds of fun. I heard, which is good.
And the smaller Calvin brother.
Which one's that?
The taller one.
The smaller one? Oh, the taller one. Yeah. I don't have a smaller one. I'm the runt. So well, good. So you'll be up there this weekend for sure. Okay, good. They know you're coming. Okay, good. That's good. No, that's good. So every once in a while they put out the word and then they all go to somewhere and have, the meetings somewhere on yonder hill or something. So, okay. So just check in if you're going that way. So, all right, good. All right. Yes, Jeremy.
So let's pray for the VBS and the planning on that. And then the convention kids and all those traveling home right now.
All right, they're en route, eh?
They are.
Good. We're anxious to hear how they did and all the fun they had. All right, good. So let's do pray for Vacation Bible School that's coming up and for those that are traveling home from convention. Juanita.
Sherry Pastores,
treatments are really doing her in.
Yeah. All right, let's do pray for Sherry Pastorius and her treatments and her health, and should be doing better. Jerry.
Could you pray for Liliana? We're not sure what happened to her, why we can't get a hold of her. I went over there tonight, they didn't answer the doors.
All right, let's do pray for Liliana, her family. Juanita.
Also, Gilbert McDaniel, Keenan's father-in-law, there's the treatment, the IV in feeding tube wasn't working because the treatment that he had for cancer damaged his digestive system. So he's just, he won't be lasting very long.
All right, Delbert McDaniels. All right, let's do prayer for him and his health and his family. Yep. All right, anything else? All right, well then at this time we'll divide up the kids for classes.
Thankfully, we trained some of these younger men to do the sound because usually Craig or Kenneth or JT or somebody's back there doing it, and Gage was the only one here. And so I don't know what I'm doing back there, so I was glad he was here and we got that going. So tonight, last week we talked about the authority and raising godly children. It's important to have the right order of authority. That order is found in 1 Corinthians 11, the beginning, and it says that the head of every woman is the man. The head of the man is Jesus, and then the head of Jesus is God. And that's the way that God has established a home. Children are underneath the authority of the husband and wife. And finally, we talked different active ways that you can fight against the forces of evil in your house and establish your authority. And there's different things that will try to take away your authority. Listen, on the way to school this morning, I listened to the radio, and there was a lady, I don't know if she was running for the school board or if she was just complaining about the condition of Washoe County schools and the need for a change. But she mentioned in her ad, that it was an ad, and I didn't hear what the ad was for, but she mentioned that in Washoe County, the law says that if a man or a boy identifies as a girl, he can go into the girls' restrooms, he can go into the girls' locker rooms, he can play on the girls' sports teams, and then it also says that children can keep secrets from their parents about birth control and things like that. And so there are people out there that are actively trying to take the authority that God has given the parents over their children and take it away. And it's happening here in Washoe County itself. And one person said that the schools that you and I went to, and he was probably younger than I was, he was probably in his 30s or 40s, he goes, they're drastically different than the schools that the kids are going to now. And I know that many of us went to public schools, and I went to the Church Academy here from 3rd grade on, but many of you guys went to the public schools. And even if you had troubles there or if you were exposed to different bad practices, they're much worse now than they used to be. And so just pray for our kids that have to be there. There's some kids that just don't have a choice. And pray that we can get some more kids in the Church Academy and help influence them for good. Anyway, there are parents. We need to, as parents, one thing that we need to do is to establish our authority is to control who our children's peers are, who are children's peers, who is having influence and who is pressuring your children.
When I was when I was 4 years old, I think I was about 4 years old, we lived in the town of Albany, Oregon, and we went to church at the church there, and there was some older kids, older than me, 6 or 7, 5 or 6, and when they would do something, I would follow along with them, and then they would blame, they would tell their mother, well, Luke is having an effect on our kid, he's leading them astray, that's why they're misbehaving, all right? And it was just an excuse from that mother to excuse the bad behavior of her son. And it wasn't me, because I was younger than them, and they were actually affecting me and getting me in trouble as well. And my mom would punish me for that, and my dad would punish me for that too. But we need to know who your children's friends are. We need to know them, and a good thing to do is invite them over to your home. One thing John Loader encouraged me on was, he goes, because I had an opportunity to get a pool table and I set it up, and he goes, if you can have everybody at your house, at least you know what's going on. And so when we'd have youth group parties or things, many times it was at our house, and so we could keep an eye on things and know who the kids were hanging out with. Many of the times that I was influenced badly or watched things I shouldn't watch or did things I shouldn't have done was when I was allowed to go to somebody else's home. And sometimes it was people in the church, and sometimes it was relatives that are Christians and even religious people. And even then, we were allowed to do things that we probably shouldn't have been out to do. But my parents weren't aware of it, and all those things undermine your authority. Mike Raymond said one time that he let his children could go anywhere, and they could go out and they could date as long as, I think you said there were 7 of them. Is that right? Seven of them together? Yeah. And so it's real hard to pair off if there's 7 people, I guess. And so, and it's if you got 7 kids that are Christians, I know some of you thinking, well, I know when I was a kid, I could figure out 7 people I could get away with stuff with, right? Is that what you're thinking? Maybe, I don't know. I had 6 bad friends. I could probably work this out. But it's just a little harder. In that group, there's going to be one person that's going to be, you know what, guys? We shouldn't be doing this, and that'll be a strong influence on you there. If a stranger asks to borrow your car, they said, I just want to borrow, hey, they walk up and knock on your door, hey, can I borrow your car? I'm out of gas. I need to go to the gas station and get some gas. Would you just give them their keys? No, you wouldn't do that. And so many times we let our kids go with other people that they should go with. One time when my daughter was, I think she was 11 or 12, 11, maybe 11. Another girl in the school was having a birthday, and her dad was taking them to the Reno air races, 11 or 12. And I found out later those 2 girls were allowed to run anywhere they wanted without supervision around the Reno air races. All right, I didn't know that was going to happen. I thought they was a responsible adult, and you make mistakes like that, and it's like, well, this is why I don't allow you to go to other people's houses or spend the night at other people's houses or things like that, because you never know. Their rules are not going to be the same as yours, and so you're really sure that's the case. You shouldn't do that. And if people want to have, hey, can your child come over and spend the night? And it should be like, well, you wouldn't let somebody just borrow your car on a whim. You'd be much more serious about borrowing your child, right? You should be anyway. And then we also, as part of that, we need to train our children from a very early age to choose the right kind of friends. There are many times, my mom especially would say, I know you're in the same church or you're in the same school as this person, but this person's not a nice person, and you should not be hanging around with them. All right? And that's a tough thing to do as parents, to say that, hey, this is a harmful relationship and you need to stay away from this person. But you're protecting what God has given you. God has given you this charge that you're supposed to, train your child in the way that he should go. And we need to realize this is very important. And then give your children opportunities to associate with good young people. There's a man named Cruz Lizarraga, and I think Debbie Lizarraga came out here and was treated at a thing here, and they had a bunch of kids, and they lived in Ohio, and he came over to my house one time when I was in Ohio, and he talked to us, and when he got disappointed with the church and with the worldliness that was in the church, and so he kind of went to this isolation idea where he would just had a church in his house, and he raised his kids, and we're going to be holy people. And what happened was when his kids got to the age of 15 and 16 and 17, they went out and they got jobs, and it turns out the only friends and associates they had were those people that they worked with at the McDonald's or at the Arby's or wherever they worked in their jobs, and those are not good people generally, all right? And I can tell you from experience from working here at Burger King, one of the guys that we worked with actually ended up stabbing somebody to death in a drug deal that went wrong, and he worked there at Burger King with us and was a very good worker, but what I'm saying about Cruz is in one of his boys, I don't know if they were drinking or they were in a car that somebody was drinking. Anyway, they died in a car accident. And he goes, I was disappointed with the church and with the worldliness in the church, but even as bad as the church was, it's way better than the world. And you need to have those Christian associations, and you need to have those Christian friends and companions, because otherwise your kids are going to find the wrong kinds of companions. And I think that's why it's so good if you can be at the youth groups and be at the youth rallies and go to the camps. And even, I remember Mom and Dad taking us to family camp in Colorado, and we went to Coos Bay Family Camp, and we went to, I went to Camp Lane with Mr. Poe year after year, and we went to Park Creek, and even before we moved down here, we'd go to VBSs at other churches of Christ when we were little kids, and just all these associations, and we made friends, and some of those people are still friends of mine, and still in the church, and still serving God, and you make those your friends, your association, and it affects who you are. And what does the Bible say? Be not deceived. Evil companions corrupt good morals, right? And that is something that really happens. And so we want to try to find good association, good fellowship for your children. And then train your children to talk about the gospel with their peers. We should be spreading the gospel, and we should be training them to do that too. And many times, children are much more willing to talk to others than adults are. They don't have the same inhibitions that we have as, they're not going to want to hear. We kind of have that kind of attitude sometimes, and we pass people up. And sometimes children, we need to train them to be more open and train ourselves also to spread the gospel. It is not wrong to associate with people that are not Christians, but what is your purpose in associating with them? Jesus associated with prostitutes, with tax collectors, with lepers and all kinds of people, but he did so that he would have the opportunity to teach them and make them better people. Children are great at inviting other children to Bible classes. They're going to be the most influential. We saw that with Riley and Xander. Xander would never be here if Riley hadn't been his classmate at school. And then exercise your authority as parents to determine who their friends are. I already said that. All right. And some people say, well, my folks have no right to tell me who can be my friends. Yes, they do. Yes, they do. All right. This is not, when it comes to the household, you don't have the Bill of Rights as a 12-year-old kid in your house, all right? And that's just the way it is. Parents have the authority. Also, with education, and I mentioned what they said about Washoe County this morning, you should, if your children have to go to a public school, or even if they're going to the private school or whatever they're doing, you need to know, what are they being taught? What does the books say that they're reading? What is the teacher's views that are teaching them? Who are their teachers? What is the subjects that are coming up in these classes? And many times, if it's a controversial subject, the schools will let you opt out of it. You can opt out of some of the things that you don't want them to be taught in the public schools. But we need to be involved. Volunteer to work at school activities. Investigate the school activities before your child gets involved. Find out if a class or extracurricular activity will involve missing church services, or if it has some false teaching in it. And make it clear to all that are involved that your children are not going to partake in certain activities. And if you have a list of concerns, talk to the teacher about them. Put in your child's school record what you think they should be taught about sex education, evolution, abortion, homosexuality, gender identification, all those things. And hopefully that isn't a problem, but it's so in your face today. And if you try to teach your child something different, you're brainwashing your child. But who's the one really brainwashing here? All right? And talk with your children at home about matters of concern. And, sometimes there's kids that have been abused and they've been taught things wrong. I remember my wife said that as a little child, she had never been taught the difference between evolution or creation. And so she just swallowed the lie until she was older and figured it out that millions of years ago, dinosaurs evolved on this planet, and they died off and all that, but she had never been taught the other side. And so we need to actively be teaching them the truth so that they can recognize something that's false. When I was 12 years old, we had to we had some classes here at church, and one of the assignments in my class, I had to bring an exhortation. I think maybe I was 11 or 10. I was pretty young, and I had to bring this exhortation in class, and I had never made a lesson or prepared a speech or anything before that. And so my dad said, well, here's, sometimes you can get some useful information out of some commentary. And so he had a Barnes commentary, and you're probably not familiar with that. And it's basically some guy's idea about what the Bible says. And so I just copied down word for word what Barnes said about this passage of Scripture I was supposed to preach. And I preach it at class at night. And I remember Mike Carr was there in the class, and my dad was in the class, and Mike Carr just interrupts me, right? Well, that's false teaching right there. And I said, well, I got it out of this book my dad gave me. And so, I'd copied this out of this book, right? And, that's the danger. And if we trust other sources than the Bible, we get away from God's Word, we're going to do some things that are wrong. And so make sure that your children know enough about the truth not to be fooled by these other things that could happen. And like I said, there's sometimes people are abused, and the abuser has treated this child in such a way, they call it grooming, where they don't even know they're being abused. And they don't even, well, if somebody does this to you, you tell me about this. You need to be very explicit. If they touch you here, if they try to use these terms with you, you need to. Sometimes children don't even know. We just call that snuggle time, or they're just trying to show their love for me, or whatever. And there's kids that have that innocence and that attitude, and it happens even in churches and in Christian schools, and so we need to be on the guard for that. One thing that we did here at the church building is that you notice there's windows in every door in the building, almost every door. Bathroom doors don't have windows, but thank God. Anyway, that's a liability thing, and it's a accountability thing, and so and we need to be aware. It's a bad idea for a guy to counsel a girl, no matter what the age difference is, no matter who it is. It's a bad idea for them to be alone. We need to avoid the appearance of evil, like it says. Avoid every appearance of evil, and don't give anybody any room for accusation. There are plenty of us that know people that have been falsely accused, and because of those false accusations, it's cost lawsuits and it's cost different things that have happened. Mr. Poe was even sued years ago, and it was a false accusation the whole way. But it's just things like this. This is a world that we live in, and so we need to be careful there. And then stand for the truth regardless of the consequences. Well, what if my child gets a bad grade? Or what if my child gets kicked out of this class? Or what if my child gets embarrassed of me? Stand for the truth. You know, the first century church, they went to prison. They died, burned at the stake, and they were fed to lions, and there's many things that they did. And because of that witness, many people became Christians because they saw how well the Christians died. And then choose alternative forms of education. That's the best thing you can do, is put your child first. God gave parents the ultimate responsibility for training their children. And it's not up to the church, and it's not up to the school, it's not up to the government, but it's up to us as parents. Luke 6:46 says, "Why do you call me Lord, Lord, and do not the things that I say?" And so the issue of authority is a critical issue facing our society. There's a lot of people out there that give lip service to God that do not do what God says. I know there's churches out there that promote a homosexual agenda, and they say Jesus is their Lord, but they're not doing what Jesus says. All right? And so we need to recognize that as parents. Well, now we can get into the lesson I prepared for tonight. And yes, go ahead.
When you're talking about not trying to stay away from bad companions and that kind of stuff, no household with kids should have computers, laptops, tablets, and smartphones in their rooms.
Yeah, especially in their bedrooms.
That's what
TVs,
I'm talking about.
yeah. And I'm not saying you kids can't use technology. I was talking to a lady today. She has a 12-year-old son, and she somehow, because of school things, his tablet got paired with hers, and so she can see how much screen time he has. And 1 week, 96 hours of screen time. 96 hours of screen time. 12-year-old kid, and he's playing Minecraft, and he's doing that all day long, every day. And she goes, "You need to get outside, you know." And I was like, "Wow." All right. And the other thing is, I talked to a family that they have a 15-year-old daughter, and it's not uncommon. This person's supposed to be a Christian, supposed to love God. She gives her phone number out to random guys she meets at the store. She wanted me to talk to a guy that she had met online about coming to church, and I don't know how old this guy is or what he looks like or anything, you know. And I understand you're trying to do what's right, but that's not the way to do it, all right? There's way better ways to do it, and that's very dangerous. You need to watch out and be very careful, because people are really clever about getting around laws and restrictions and things like that. And I've heard of so many stories where, like, a 12-year-old girl will sneak out to meet somebody that she's met online that's supposedly a friend or a peer or thing, and then it turns out very, very bad. All right, tonight we're going to get in the lesson. The few 10 minutes we have left is key number 6 is motivation, and we're going to talk about punishment rewards. And when we're doing the ACE training, they talk about this donkey pulling a cart, and how heavy is the load, and then how big is the carrot, you know, and how bad is the whip, you know, and so we have different things that motivate us or to do different things. And so the Bible has given us a different ways that we can motivate our children to follow our authority. Parents I would love when I was a parent that my children would obey the first time, every time, and I would never have to spank them. The only one here that I know that never got a spanking was Eric, all right? Is that because you obeyed the first time, every time? Most likely. Most likely. That is a lie. You need to repent. All right. His parents were, his mom was a public school teacher or special ed teacher, and so that probably influenced her thoughts on discipline and things like that. But even besides that, God got a hold of Eric, and now he's okay, and it turned out. But I noticed that Eric, with his own children, has decided that spanking is better than not spanking. Is that correct? Yeah, see. So he learned from that. Anyway, often the child's will conflict the will of the parent, and then if the child is to learn respect for authority and do what we believe to be best for them, we must still get them to obey us. And how can we lead a child that doesn't want to be led? Sometimes you have to use some punishment. Well, you have to motivate them to obey. Whatever reason they have for not obeying, you must give them a stronger reason to obey. And this is done by rewards and punishments. And we should be motivating them with positive reinforcement also, and also negative reinforcement as well. Psychologists will call this reinforcement when it's used to train in animals, but they'll call it abuse when it's used to train in children, which doesn't make a lot of sense. I remember hearing, I think it was Kent Hovind, he was talking about his child. He took him to the dentist, and the child had a cavity, and they wanted to numb the area in the child's mouth. And the dentist brings out this 6-foot-long needle and is getting ready, and the child's just freaking out, all right? And so the dentist is trying to get the needle in the kid's mouth, and the kid doesn't want any of it, and he's squirming and trying to get away from this needle. And so Kent took his child out to the car, and he spanked him. And he goes, now we're going to go back inside, and you're going to sit there, and you're going to let the dentist give you a shot in your mouth. And if you don't, if you misbehave or you act up, we're going to come back out here to the car, and we're going to go through this again. And we're going to keep on doing this as long as it takes. And he goes, I'm in pretty good shape. I used to play tennis, and so I think I can do this all day. How about you? All right? And so they went inside, and the child sat there, and he didn't move a muscle. The dentist gave him the shot. The dentist drilled out the cavity, filled it. Everything was good. They went on the way. The dentist goes, what did you do to that child? He goes, do you want a job? Man, I could use somebody like you here. He goes, I don't think they would like my methods. But what changed in that child was his fear. Now he was more afraid of his dad than he was of the needle. All right? And that's a healthy fear, the respect and awe fear that we are supposed to have towards God. And that's one of the motivations that God uses with us as well. And spanking is a God-given way that God has told us to motivate our children. Many child-rearing so-called authorities oppose the use of spanking. Psychologist Linda Budd wrote, if you spank your child, you should apologize and own up to your mistake. All right. I wonder how that worked out for you, Linda. All right. Listen, Linda. All right. Yeah. And that's an old meme. How old is that? Yeah. You can tell how old you guys are by how. All right. Spanking is taught in the Bible. Proverbs chapter 22, verse 15. And this is so true, this verse. And my alarm's going off. It says, foolishness is bound up in the heart of a child, but the rod of correction will drive it far from him. All right? And all the time, I see children doing things that are not that smart. All right? And like I see a kid, and they try to balance their cup of juice between their chest and the table and see how far they can go down the... That's not a good idea. All right? Foolishness is bound up in the heart of a child. And hey, who can hit that window with a rock from here, And Jace told me that when his grandkids come over, all the lights were shot out, right? All the light bulbs and different things. Is that right around your house? No. No? all the windows of the cars. Okay. Because they thought it was a good idea. Man, that's very good thing. Foolishness is bound up in the heart of a child. And so the rod of correction is needed to drive that far from him. Proverbs 19:18 says, chasten your son while there is hope. And this is one that's often misquoted, spare the rod, spoil the child. But it doesn't say that. Bible doesn't say that. Proverbs 13:24 says, one that does not spank their child when it's needed hates his son. And so this is things that we should look at. And we'll talk a little bit more about what spanking involves. And we're not talking about like beating them to a pulp. That's not what we're talking about. But lovingly disciplining them according to the Word of God. All right, you may be dismissed to your different areas of prayer.